Welcome. In this video, we are looking at how to interpret bearing questions into diagram. So the purpose of this video is to interpret this into diagram. We have the question, the bearing of Q from P is 150 degrees and the bearing of P from R is 015 degrees. When we look at this, these are 3 digits bearing. Remember, we can denote bearing reading in 3-digit bearing or compass bearing. So we are going to look at this based on the problem we have at hand here. It is 3-digit bearing. Now let's start. The bearing of Q from P, that means P is the starting point. P is our reference point to Q. So let's say this is our P. Remember, bearing is the angular measure in clockwise direction from the north. We have the north, the east, the south, and the west here. So here, the location of Q is on 150 degrees from P. So this is 90 and 150 will probably be somewhere here. So we make this one our Q. So this is 150 degrees. Now, the bearing of P from R is 015. Let's also read this second sentence. If Q and R are 24 kilometers and 32 kilometers away respectively from P, that is, Q is 24 kilometers away from P and R is 32 kilometers away from P. So this will be 24 kilometers. Remember, the distance between P and R is then 32. So let's go back. The bearing of P from R is 015. That means R is the starting point for P. So if we are to look at it 015, for us to have a point in which this point will fall on its 015, which is 15 degrees, the point is supposed to be here. It has to be here. So let's now say we have it this way. And remember, it's as well long. So if we make this one, let's say 15 degrees somewhere, this is not drawn to scale anyways, but for the purpose of this, we need to understand. So that means from the north, which is R, this place is 15 degrees. 015 degrees, which we call 15 degrees. That is the point R. And this is 32 kilometers. So we can then join this. So the question says, represent this information in a diagram. And with this, we've been able to represent this information on the diagram. So what are likely questions that may now come from here? The question may say, what is the bearing of R from Q? The bearing of R from Q will now be, what is the location of this R starting from Q? If you are looking at the bearing of R from Q, we read it this way. This is the bearing of R from Q. Is that clear? So if we are also looking for the bearing of R from P, bearing of R from P, we are going to read it this way. Bearing of R from P. This is the bearing of R from P. So these are likely questions that can come up in a problem like this. The most important thing here is being able to interpret the diagram correctly. So when we now interpret the diagram, there are 2 basic tools that we must know when solving problems involving bearing, which is our cosine rule and our sine rule. So if you find this interesting, don't forget to click on the like button and as well share this video for more interesting content like this.